Hey guys, Sam with Bro Builds here, and in this video we're going to be adding some electrical, moving some plumbing, tearing down a wall, and hopefully adding a new door. It's a lot, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey guys, so like I said, first step is electrical here, and while I did add 2 new breakers to my panel, I'm not going to show that to you guys because I don't feel comfortable teaching anyone how to change a breaker on a large scale. If I can find the video again, I will leave it in the description below, the video that I used to learn how to change a breaker just 10 minutes ago. But I did add 2 new breakers, like I said, one for the garage outlets and one for the laundry room outlets. And while there is no standard for how many outlets you need or can have on a single breaker, I do have some kind of plan to turn my garage into possibly like a workout space with like a treadmill, a few other things here and there. And I want to make sure that if I have the treadmill plugged in here and then I have like something, I don't know what else I might have plugged in the laundry room, I don't want to tax that too much, because I may put like a coffee bar or something like that in there. Last thing I need is to be running on the treadmill and have like someone try to start making coffee, it shut off and me just run straight into the wall. While that would be funny, plus I plan on adding a few more outlets in here than what I'm doing today. It's just because I'm already up there running stuff and this wall is open, so I figured might as well drop a couple lines and add the outlets here. The main focus is the laundry room, and that's why I put 2 breakers in instead of 1 breaker to power all of this stuff. So with that being said, let's drop the lines. I'm not going to show me dropping the lines here in the garage. I'm just going to show me dropping the lines in the laundry room because that's what this video is about. But I want to talk about why I added 2 breakers instead of 1.
So, you guys may realize that this is not the laundry room. Some dummy forgot to record any of the new electrical work in the laundry room, so here I am covering for him. I'm lucky though that I recorded the garage electrical, so I have this to show you, and it's basically the same as a laundry room, just in the garage. The only other difference is that I didn't drop my line from the attic for this wall. Instead, I ran it straight out of the breaker box and through the studs, which the main difference there is just that I didn't have to work in the attic space where it was hot and tight corners trying to fit in between the ceiling and the roof of my house. But you may also notice that the same idiot who forgot to record the laundry room didn't realize that the boxes for the electrical needed to be proud of the studs and not flush with the outside. Don't worry about it though, I fixed his mistake, so it just looks wrong right now, but in the final product it is correct. After not filming the laundry room new electrical, I decided why not make a trend of it and also not record any of the plumbing work I had done. But as you can see, the new plumbing is there on the back wall. And I did pay someone to take care of that for me. As I said, I didn't want to break up any of my concrete subfloors myself, especially where there was plumbing running through. And I actually ended up having it flood my entire garage. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. What I'm working on right here, though, is relocating the electrical for my washer and dryer. And because whoever installed the drywall in this old laundry room space loved those drywall clips, I sadly wasn't able to keep the drywall intact. I tried at first to surgically cut away the drywall in just the spot where I'd be running my dryer plug, but then ended up also cutting into my vapor barrier. So because of that and the drywall clips, I decided just to scrap the whole wall, making my life a whole lot easier in the long run. And I'm hiring out the drywall work as I've decided. Here, you're seeing me abandon my efforts to move the electrical without completely tearing out that old center wall just yet. But to do that, and not have to get back in that hot attic, I realized I need the top plate of the old wall out of my way. And seeing as there's no sense in trying to remove only the top plate, I tore down the entire wall at this point. You're also seeing a little bit of issues I had removing the bottom plate here, and that's just because the wood was kind of rotted. That one just kind of split. There were also nails in the floor plate, as you remember from our old video on the building of this new wall, where I went with some lag bolts. They went with those nails here, and it held the wall in place just fine, even though the wood was all rotted. I also decided, tear down the whole wall, just get this door out now too. The screws and nails were all rusted and barely holding that door in place. I'm honestly surprised that it didn't come out sooner. Next, I moved on to actually removing the top plate, and this was kind of tricky and some delicate work that I did here. And that's only because, again, whoever built this room really loved those drywall clips. The only difference here being that I really, really didn't want to remove the drywall, not to make less work for myself, but to try and prevent that blown insulation I have in my attic from falling out and losing all of that, and then having to pay more for insulation and to get it blown into my attic. And I didn't have any easy way to move it off of that piece of drywall. So I just did my best to brush it off the top plate where this old wall was, and then bent the clips as best I could out of the way so that I could remove this wall. It was fairly easy to get this section out, but as I got closer to where my roof meets the end of my ceiling there, where it was some really tight space, I couldn't get into the attic to bend those clips. Also, couldn't get into the attic to run the electrical, hence why I'm removing the top plate. So, yeah, I had to do some really delicate work here, reaching up and around, trying to bend those clips from the bottom here. And with a little bit of wiggling and a little bit of work, just move it a little bit, bend the clip a little bit, back and forth, really tedious work, but definitely worth it to not have to redo any of that insulation. I was eventually able to remove this section of the top plate and begin running my electrical. Hey, would you look at that? I said I'd be running my electrical, and there I am running it right now. I did have to notch out the corner of my ceiling there, though, to be able to run the wires down and get a good handle on them, especially that dryer cable, because it was extra thick with 2Cs. But seriously, all joking aside, it was a pretty easy process, way easier than it would have been trying to run all of this through the attic, as I know it would have been. Once I got the wires pulled down, I just dropped them straight down as far as I could and wired them up.
Well, guys, the old laundry room is no more. Finally took down the entire wall, moved all the electrical. It is gone. We are just in the new laundry room. Took down the top plate, didn't lose a ton of insulation. The drywall is mostly intact, which is wonderful, and I didn't lose any insulation from that breaking. I did have to notch out this back corner here, though, to be able to run my electrical. That being said, I ran the electrical here. I've got my dryer and then my washer lines here. The dryer is a little higher than I would have wanted it to be, but with the washer and dryer, my new washer and dryer that I'm going to put here, and then the countertop I'm going to put on top of them, I'm fairly confident that this will be concealed below the countertop, so not too worried. If it's not, I'll cross that bridge whenever I get there. But that being said, the last thing that we have left to do in this video, and the last bit of electrical that we have to do for this laundry room build out, is put in the new lights. And for that, I've got these super flats, hollow, I forget exactly what they call them, but flush mounts, drywall mount, whatever they are, lights. And there's two pieces. So you've got all your electronics and power running through here, and then it runs through this cord into this. And what's super nice about these is you don't need studs. Like traditional can lights, you need a stud or a rafter to be able to mount your lights to. And luckily with these, they've got these little tabs on the side that hold them flush to the drywall. So all you gotta do is cut out a hole to be able to fit all of this metal parts and your clips through, and then it just flush mounts. And then you go in the attic or wherever you are, and you can mount this. Now, if you don't have attic access, you can actually, through the hole that you drilled, mount your and run your electrical, and then plug this into your light, and then flush mount. But with that being said, let's get started on these lights.
Well, guys, first up on electrical is removing the old light, of course. Don't want that getting in my way, and I need access to those wires, which, again, just like the washer and dryer, were really short. There was no slack left in them, which became a problem a little bit later whenever I had to wire up the light. But before wiring up the light, I had to drill the hole for the new light to sit into, and so I measured that out and marked it with a nail so that I could kind of look at the centering from a bunch of different angles, especially because my doorway into the kitchen is not centered in the laundry room. I wasn't sure exactly if I wanted to center the light on the doorway or the room, and I ultimately decided to center it in the room here. After that, it was time to drill the hole, and while researching this video and those lights specifically, I picked up a little trick on drilling holes in drywall using a hole saw, and that's to run the drill the correct way for a little bit to get that center drill bit embedded into your drywall so that your hole saw doesn't wander at all on you, and then actually put the drill in reverse and run it that way. This does a couple things. The angle that I was at specifically, it kept the bottom of the drill from swinging and hitting me in the face. And it also ensured that when the drill bit, those teeth didn't try to rip the drywall down and do a bunch of damage that would be more difficult to repair later on down the line. It's just a lot smoother, cleaner of a cut on something as delicate and porous as drywall is. But after that was done, it was time to wire up the new lights to that little box. And like I said previously, those wires reach just as far as they do in the video right here. There is zero slack on the other side in the attic space there. So I really had to work hard to try and get them to reach. And because of that, this light was installed in the attic space. These lights are easy to install either way normally, but without any slack, it would have been too difficult to try and do it from the bottom, so I braved the hot attic once more to wire that up. And once that was all done, I was able to test out the lights, and it was an exciting step to see that not only did these lights work, but that I didn't screw it up, and then I could move on to wiring up the second light, which was very similar to the first one here. Measured out, used the nail, only this time I was checking to see that it lined up nicely with the other light that I had already placed. Again, even though I measured, you don't want it looking off, even if it's technically exactly centered. So I measured that out, adjusted it, and then same thing, drilled my hole, made sure to put the hole saw forward for a little bit, and then reverse for the whole way through where the teeth of the hole saw part of itself was touching the drywall, and then wired it up, which was a lot easier to do because I gave myself more slack with the wire, unlike the previous homeowners, and now everything's ready to go.
Well, guys, that's a wrap here for the plumbing and the electrical and the little bit of demo work that we did tearing out the old wall here. I know it wasn't super descriptive on any of the electrical work here, but that's because, honestly, this is the first time I'd ever done anything like this. So I hope that inspires you to take on something like this that maybe you're a little bit nervous or apprehensive about, that you don't know too much about. It was honestly a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Just be smart, turn off your breakers, turn off the whole breaker box if you're worried about electrocuting yourself or doing something wrong. Always be able to monitor, your work for at least an hour afterwards. Whenever I finished on any day, I would turn on the breakers if, I was at a stage where I could, where there weren't any exposed wires that were going to catch fire or that I didn't expect were going to catch fire. I would turn on the breaker and just sit and be around the house, making sure that nothing was catching fire. And then before I left to go back to my apartment for the night, I would turn everything back off just to be safe. Now we are a few weeks out from whenever I installed the electrical, and it's been on since the last thing that you guys saw in this video. and nothing's gone wrong, nothing's caught fire. You know, I didn't screw up any other electrical in the rest of the house. Everything is still working as far as the rest of the house is concerned. And you know, like I said, I learned a lot. You know, ran my own, put in my own breakers, ran my own lines for outlets and light switches, ran some new lights, all that kind of stuff. Moved existing electrical over. In, you know, like I said, I learned a lot there, and I really lucked out too as far as moving the electrical goes, because there was no slack in my dryer plug. So I was really worried I was going to end up having a dryer plug that landed on the wall near the top of my head. But you know, I've measured since installing the new dryer line, and it is actually like a quarter of an inch lower than it absolutely could be for the countertop that I'm going to be installing above my washer and dryer against that wall. So really lucked out there. I didn't know what I would have done if I needed to extend that line, let alone rerun the entire line just to have a longer cord. I was not looking forward to that. And next week, we're going to wrap up this room, quite literally. We'll be putting in insulation, wrapping the room in a vapor barrier, putting in new doors, filling in the hole that the plumbers left behind when they moved my lines over. Now that I know it's not going to flood anymore, I gave that as much time as I could to be open and visible so that I could see if it started leaking again, so it wouldn't leak into my concrete and sink my house. But no more leaks. So we're going to be filling that in, like I said, putting in new doors and then widening the entryway to the kitchen here. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys next time.